On November 19th, a person went into Club Q, located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and shot up the place, leaving 5 dead and 25 injured. This is not going to be a fun one. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about the recent Club Q shooting, and more specifically, the response to it that people have been, having to it, both on the right and even the left, as I do feel there are some things that can be addressed and handled better on both ends. We'll get to it. I want to point out real quick, for anybody that doesn't want me or anyone else making these tragic events political, first of all, I learned throughout pretty much all of 2020 that if you live in a society, which you do, we all do, everything is political. That's just the way it is. And the other thing is that these acts of, let's just call them what they are, stochastic terrorism, are entirely spurred on by right-wing propaganda. And again, we'll get to that in a moment. So without further ado, let's look at Ben Shapiro's take. Whoops.
A gunman killed 5 people and injured 25 at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. According to the Washington Post, at least 5 people were killed, 25 were injured after a man with a rifle walked into an LGBTQ nightclub here and opened fire, according to law enforcement officials who credited one or more clubgoers with subduing the shooter before more people were hurt. The FBI is assisting with the investigation, which officials said is in its early stages. As of Sunday morning, local and federal officials were trying to piece together details about the attack, including what may have led the gunman to the club, the suspect's criminal history, and how the shooter came to possess the weapon the officials say was used in the attack. Charges will probably include first-degree murder, of course, because it is apparently first-degree murder.
Notice how he says that. Of course, it's apparently first-degree murder. They're going to call it first-degree murder. Meanwhile, if we look at the definition of first-degree murder, first-degree murder is the most serious in all homicide offenses. It involves any intentional murder that is willful and premeditated with malice aforethought. I looked up this word before, and basically it just means like thought beforehand. It's the opposite of an afterthought, which I thought was like what it meant. But anyway, yeah, what it means is premeditated murder. This is by definition premeditated murder. This is by definition first-degree murder.
Terrible news over the weekend as a gunman killed 5 people and injured 25 at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. According to the Washington Post, at least 5 people
hang on. I know what I did.
Were killed. 20 enforcement. The FBI is assisting with the investigation. Clubgoers with subduing the shooter before here and opened fire. According to law enforcement, 5 were injured. Assisting with the investigation, which officials said is in its early stages. As of Sunday, the club, the suspect's criminal history, and how the shooter came to possess the weapon, because it is apparently first-degree murder. Around 11:57 p.m. Saturday, police received a call about a shooting at Club Q on North Academy Boulevard. Lieutenant Pamela Castro, a spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Police, told reporters. Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers said the first officer arrived on the scene within 3 minutes after being dispatched. The suspect on North Academy Boulevard. Around 11:57, first-degree murder, of course, because it is apparently first-degree murder. Around 11:57 p.m. Saturday, police received a call about a shooting at Club Q on North Academy Boulevard. Lieutenant Pamela Castro, a spokesperson for the Colorado Springs Police, told reporters. Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers said the first officer arrived on the scene within 3 minutes after being dispatched. The suspect was subdued within 2 minutes after that. One person inside the club just before midnight, a person named Joshua Thurman, told the Post that people were dancing as shots began to ring out. We heard the music and then we heard pop, 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 pop. That was it. So I kept on dancing, said Thurman. When I heard another set of shots go off, that's when it clicked in my mind. And that's when I immediately took off and ran for cover. A patron did tackle the gunman inside the club and prevented him from killing more people. So obviously heroic action by somebody who was there to prevent more murder. Nick Greshka is one of the club's co-owners. He said that he and his co-owner had reviewed surveillance video that showed the gunman entering the building and immediately beginning to fire. He says, I don't even know the names of the people who held him down. What they did is incredible. Club Q, which is the name of the club, did have an active shooter protocol, which Grishka's co-owner, Matthew Haynes, had said followed to the letter. The two owners arrived at the scene minutes after the shooting and gave surveillance camera footage.
One thing I want to point out real quick, this is a small thing, but it's something that kind of irks me. I do wish that, considering he's going over an actual article here, he'd have it maybe on the side here or something so the audience could follow along with what he's reading. I know that, of course, the way I do my setup is very different. The way that a lot of people, the way everybody makes their content is different, and that's all well and good. But it's just a small thing. I just wish that he would have that kind of thing. He doesn't have to. It doesn't necessarily take away anything. I just think it might enhance the experience if he did have something like that. I know whenever I go over articles, which we'll get to one pretty soon here, or anything like that, I always try to show what I'm talking about on screen so you can see it. I've had people kind of say in my comments things like, oh, you don't, what are your sources? Well, for things that I actually need sources for what I'm talking about, I will pull up and show. For things that I'm actually just giving my opinion on different things, or, offhand comment about something I'm referencing, don't necessarily feel the need to look that up. But when actually going over an article like this, I do think it would be good to actually have the article, like, just kind of scrolling down here or something. Again, small thing, just that, yeah.
To the investigators. So this immediately raised questions as to who exactly the shooter was. Apparently, the shooter is a 22-year-old with a, as you would guess, serious history of violent imprecations. A person with the same name, address, and date of birth as the suspect was arrested in June 2021 and charged in connection with making a bomb threat in the Lauriston Ranch community, a suburb of modest single-family homes on the southeastern outskirts of Colorado Springs in El Paso County. According to a sheriff's office report at the time, a woman had called the sheriff's office to say that her son was threatening to hurt her with a homemade bomb and other weapons. According to the report, after a nearly 1 hour standoff, the shooter, or a person with the same name, surrendered without incident. No bomb was found, according to the sheriff's office. So, once again...
Notice just real quick, notice the rather odd framing on that. The person had the same name, birth date, and address, yet they don't refer to them as the same. It's the same person. It's the same person. Just say that.
Again, we have the specter of a probably insane person committing a mass murder. The question is how this person got his hands on weaponry, why this person wasn't under psychiatric evaluation. This person was known to law enforcement, is what we are learning. This person had threatened his own family. Again, this is a common thread among mass shooters, is that they threaten members of their own family. This happened obviously at Sandy Hook. This happened also in Parkland. The pattern here obviously is person with significant violent tendencies known to law enforcement who has threatened members of his own family. That's a good place to start when you're looking for trying to screen out possible shooters.
Ben is correct about this. People that tend to have sadistic tendencies and things of that nature will often exhibit those early on in childhood. They might, some early signs that they have of things like this is they might be a little bit sick with animals or with bugs, for example. Right? If I see a bug that I want to, smash and get rid of because I don't want it around me, like maybe it's a fly or a spider or something, I'm going to do that, clean it up, and that's the end of it. But a more sadistic person might actually kind of like hold it down and start like picking apart its legs or something and torturing it, And these are, just kind of signs to be on the lookout for as far as sadistic behavior. Not to say that this kid necessarily exhibited that per se, but he did clearly, as according to this article even that Ben is reading, he did exhibit signs of, sadism and violence toward those that he was living with. As the article even said, he threatened his mother with a bomb.
Now, this has not prevented the entire political and media left from immediately determining that what this was probably a conservative Christian who just randomly decided to get up from a church and go murder a bunch of gay people at a gay club.
No, not necessarily yet. Okay. Maybe he said that partly because it happened on Sunday. For those that don't know, Christians tend to go to church on Sunday. But No. No one is arguing that he went up because he's a conservative Christian. He got out of his church, his seat at church, and immediately went to do this shooting. That is not the argument here. The argument is, Ben,
Huge news, everybody.
do we still have the ability to search channels? Do we not? Here it is. Okay. If we look up the word gay in Ben Shapiro's content, this is the issue. This is why people are making this a political issue, which is why I say don't get mad at people for making this a political issue, because it is a political issue. If you look through Ben's content and you look up the word gay, or you look up groomer, because that's the word everybody wants to use as stand-in for gay now, and you go through the content that these people, and this is just Ben, which Ben is more, let's be honest, moderate than somebody like, say, well, I'd say somebody like Matt Walsh, for example. Let's look up his content real quick here.
Okay, everybody,
Oh, good, this Daily Wire. By the way, they're on the same thing. This Daily Wire show, this is the same thing that that Ben is a part of here. You know, the Ben Shapiro show, DW, Daily Wire, the Matt Walsh show, DW, Daily Wire. They're all part of the same conglomerate. So is Candace Owens now, and so is Jordan Peterson now. So, let me check this out here. Let's look up the word gay on Matt Walsh's channel. Debunking gay marriage, it can't exist. Hoax, hateful. Disney's not at all secret gay agenda. He got mad at Oreos for, oh my fuck, guys. Okay, real quick on this, the Oreos, the gay Oreos, if you will, the ones that they put out for Pride are literally just regular Oreos, and it's just the packaging, which kind of annoys me because I'd really like rainbow Oreos, but that's me. Let's see here. Yeah, see, the thing is, and this is what people are upset about and are correctly pointing out, the rhetoric that, or if we look at the awful libs of TikTok, the message that I'm not sure if I'm going to need to cut this part out because I don't know what libs of TikTok is going to have on their page here, but the message that all of these people have, you're welcome to go to any of these channels, any of these accounts yourself and see this stuff on your own. Tucker Carlson pushes this. All of these people push this message. I believe Tucker Carlson and myself are owed quite a few apologies. Colorado club shooting suspect is non-binary. That doesn't matter. This is the thing too. People are trying to say, oh, they're non-binary themselves, so that's okay. Like, no, that is not the point here. What happened here is a premeditated event where this person who was fed all of this bullshit propaganda, told about how evil gay people, groomers, all these different things are when you're fed all of that nonsense and you are mentally unstable, as this person more than likely was. You do have this criminal record, as this person was shown to have had. All of this adds up. It's not that Ben and Matt and the right in general is completely responsible without anything else being responsible, but they are the catalyst. They are what gave that person the target to hit, if you will. This person had a target. They wanted to hit something. They wanted to fire, quite literally in this case, at something. Ben and these guys gave them that target to hit. And every time there is this anti-gay sentiment pushed by the right, they are fueling these people to go out and commit these horrific hate crimes, these horrific murders. You can't say that it's for anything else. These are events and murders carried out and caused by bigotry. 100%. Because what is the end result? Oh, they're groomers, they're horrible, they're evil, they're pedophiles. It's pretty well understood that everybody thinks people who are pedophiles and different stuff need to just be murdered without a second thought. No, my personal thought on that, maybe I'll get into this more specifically one day in the future, but I very much agree with Hunter Avalon's take on it, which is essentially that these are people who are mentally unwell and they need support so that they can, well, basically kind of like gay conversion therapy, except for pedophiles, because they would actually need some kind of conversion therapy. Or if the conversion is impossible, then what you would want to do is just, there are many different things you can do chemically. You can do things to lower their libido. You can do other things. Obviously, you want to keep them away from children, generally speaking, but they don't have to be a pariah to the point where people think that murdering them is completely justified because, well, they're, they have this mental condition, they have this philia, which is not the same as a sexuality and a desire for, the opposite gender, or feeling like you don't match the excuse me, feeling like you don't match the gender identity that you were assigned at birth, different things like that. But see, I can have these conversations, and I'm sure many of you can have these conversations and look at this with these more nuanced perspectives, but the right will not do that when it comes to these communities. Therefore, when they then push this harmful, horrible propaganda that gay bad, gay bad, gay bad, you have someone with enough of an extremist mindset and idea that they're going to take that, and they're constantly being told gay bad. They say, well, I'm going to do something about it. And this is what they do about it. That's why this is an attack on the right, and this is a political thing.
This is the line that is being taken by every member of the left, which is, if you oppose same-sex marriage, or if you don't like Drag Queen Story Hour, or if you think that children should not be indoctrinated into radical gender ideology.
Again, he is doing it right here. This is exactly the rhetoric that pushes people like who committed this murder. And by the way, just to be clear, I'm not going to name them because I do believe that one of the other reasons that people do this stuff is to get a sense of infamy that they want. So I don't want to give them any fame for this either.
Or into the alternative lifestyle ideology that suggests that all forms of sexual activity are equally meritorious. That if you're a person who believes, in other words, in traditional social values, this means that you bear responsibility for a whack job murdering gay people at a nightclub.
Again, it is not just believing. It's not if you believe in it. No, it is not just if you believe. You can believe. Okay, this is something that, quite honestly, I think the left and progressives broadly need to do better about in general, which is really hammering home the reality that what we're fighting for is freedom and choice. When it comes to things like feminism and the idea that women can work, yes, women can work, but that does not mean that women that, excuse me, sorry about that. It does not mean that women who choose to be a housewife are any less than women who choose to work. Similarly, we can understand and accept that the LGBTQ community is perfectly fine and valid without having to be rude and horrible to cishet people as well. Or bi people get this a lot as well, where they are kind of made to feel like they betrayed the LGBTQ community simply because they are in a cishet relationship. All of these different things happen, and it's really gross when they do. But when you are pushing the narrative that, no, you have to be this way, you have to be this way, anybody that is different is degenerate, that is where you give fuel to that mindset to these, let's be honest, crazy, actually mentally unwell people to go and carry out these heinous acts that they do. That is why people take issue with the things that you say, Ben. That is why people take issue with conservatives in general and this rhetoric of gays and trans people are groomers and all these different things, when all that they're doing is existing and sharing their experience with other people. It's sick, it's disgusting, it's horrible, and it is hate speech. It is giving ammunition to these people. You yourself are not, and when you have like a bigoted person, they themselves are not necessarily committing the hate crime. But when they go and push these narratives time after time, the right person hears those narratives and decides to take action in the right way that they see fit. And what is the end goal of that? What do you think?
This is the going line today. President Biden said in a statement Sunday, although the motive is not yet clear, we know gun violence has a particular impact on LGBTQI plus communities across our nation, which is a weird statement because the truth is that LGBTQI plus people are traditionally not as gun owning as, for example, more traditionally minded Americans.
Are you fucking serious right now? All right, let's hear that again.
But only not that LGBTQI plus is a weird statement. Impact on LGBTQI plus communities across our nation, which gun violence has a particular impact on LGBTQI plus communities across our nation, which is a
yes, hate crimes. That's what they're talking about, Ben. They're not talking about LGBTQI plus people shooting each other.
A weird statement because they're traditionally not as gun owning as, for example, more traditionally minded Americans. But okay, says we must address this public health epidemic of gun violence in all forms. We must drive out the inequities that contribute to violence against LGBTQI plus people. I don't even know what that means. The inequities that contribute to violence against LGBTQI plus people. I don't even know what that means. In all forms, we must drive out the inequities that contribute to violence against LGBTQI plus people. I don't even know what.
Yes, no, 100%. We must drive out the inequities that contribute to the violence. 100%. Ben, that is your rhetoric. That is the stuff that you talk about. That is the anti-gay bullshit that you people push. Those are some of the inequities that we need to push. Of course, there are arguments and there is importance for things like positive representation, which I've talked about before. And there are many other different things as well. But at the end of the day, yes, there are inequities. It's so fucking wild to me how people cannot see the lasting effects, we'll say, of their speech. And I mean, they do. They know. They're just playing dumb. But other people will not look at and acknowledge the lasting effects of what they're saying. If you get on, it's like Rush Limbaugh did this on the radio too. When you get on a public broadcasting service of any sort, and you are constantly, time after time, again and again, talking about how this specific group is, again, in this case, they're groomers, they're coming for your children, they're ruining entertainment, they're destroying the world in general. What the fuck do you think is going to happen when people hear that narrative? Now, I will say, I have an issue with this as a progressive person about people who are so callous toward the right in this same kind of way. I do talk about, and I do believe that political pundits like Ben Shapiro are evil. But when I say that they're evil, and I especially believe the conservative politicians are evil, I don't mean actually evil, like we're talking, I don't know, well, I mean, the Sith were actually kind of based off people like this. I'm not talking about evil like, say, I don't, well, okay, sure, yeah, like the Sith and the Jedi, or, you know, like a traditional good evil story where it's you know, broadly, it's like in your face, like who's good and who's evil, right? I'm not talking about that, because people will look at that stuff and they'll say, well, they're not actually telling people to go and commit these crimes, so clearly it can't be anything they're saying that that's responsible for this. I'll give you an example. I love the show The Boys. Favorite show. Fucking love it. In this show, there's a moment. Let me find it here. I want to find... Well, okay, there's the character Stormfront. Spoilers for The Boys, by the way. Sorry. And Stormfront is quite literally a Nazi. Great, good. Stormfront has a moment, and I'm trying to find it specifically when they're on... Okay, here we go. We'll go with this image. The main characters of Homelander and Stormfront are speaking to a group of people. Now, these are all... We have protesters here as well, as you can see. But they are speaking to a group of people. They are rallying up their fan base. And what they are doing is they are constantly preaching harmful rhetoric about... This was from season 2. I haven't seen season 2 in a hot minute. I can't remember who they're preaching harmful rhetoric about specifically, but there's a group of people that they are just preaching harmful rhetoric about, and they're saying things about how we need to take this back from them. These people are in the show. They're literally talking about how they need to basically take back and defend the white race. And again, this character is literally a Nazi. And by the way, the actress did a great job playing her and everything. But in the show, you see the character... no, I'm not going to play the scene for risk of copyright, but... What's the... Okay, I'm not going to show the clip because I don't I'll be honest, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. It's a very good clip though. But essentially, you have this character. This guy here is constantly, you can even see right here in his earbuds, he is constantly listening to the message that Stormfront is portraying, which is against non-white people and against supes. Which supes is what they call superhero people. Granted, she herself has superpowers, and so does her main squeeze, and ultimately the villain of The Boys, Homelander. Which, by the way, if you think Homelander's in any way the hero, you are clearly not understanding the show whatsoever. But that's for another time. So, this guy, who has been radicalized by Stormfront's message, walks into a store, asks the guy, "Are you bulletproof?" and shoots him. This is an example of the kind of event... Now, you'll understand, Stormfront did not specifically say that we need to do something about these people. We need to get rid of them. Someone needs to kill them. But the message encourages people like this who are, and let's be clear. I want to be super clear about this. You always find that these people who commit these mass shootings, these school shootings, whatever it might be, are always these people who are pathetic losers who have nothing going on in their life. And don't get me wrong, on that level, they should be pitied to an extent, and they should be given help to prevent them from becoming these monsters. But when these people, who have nothing else going on in their life, are constantly fed these messages about how horrible people like this are and that something needs to be done about them, what do people like this do? They go and they take action into their own hands. That is the through line. That is why people are so upset, and why people blame this stuff on the right. And again, why it's political. Because, as I said before, when you have people like Ben Shapiro constantly pushing this narrative that the gays are bad, gay bad, gay bad, gay bad, what do you expect to happen?
What that means. The inequities that contribute to violence against
Those are the inequities.
LGBT, like what? We're gonna give tax rebates to people, and this is somehow going to prevent insane mass shooters from murdering gay and lesbian people at a nightclub?
This is just bad faith. This is just arguing in bad faith. That is not what this means.
But this is the line. The line that is going here is that if you really wish to prevent violence against gay clubs, this means you have to support every element of the progressive agenda, or you are complicit. And this is a game that only gets played by one side of the political aisle. Again and again and again, we see in public life, when there is a threat against a person of the right, when there is an attack by a member of a left-wing organization or an intersectional identity associated with the left against someone else, that we don't tie that to a broader ideology. We don't attempt to suggest that it's the fault of everyone who has general beliefs in a broader social system. Instead, we say, well, that's an individual and he believes an extreme thing, and that person ought to be ostracized, obviously. But when it comes to the right,
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a single example that he's talking about. I wish he'd provide an example so I could look it up, but I got nothing.
Then the idea is that if a person who we don't even know what his views are on any of this stuff yet, even if it turns out this person has a manifesto that is wildly, horrifically anti-gay, for example, does that mean that everybody who believes that same-sex marriage is wrong, a societally approved same-sex marriage is wrong? Does that mean everybody is now guilty for a person who goes and shoots up a nightclub?
Okay, I'm going to level with you here. Again, he's arguing in bad faith, but I'm going to level with you here. When I was religious and different in a fair amount of ways a couple years ago, and up until then, I very much believed in this idea that people being gay should not be and I thought the same thing with this about abortion and all these different, hot button issues, that they should not be political issues. They should be social issues, or they should be personal issues. They shouldn't be legal issues. What I meant, unbeknownst to me at the time, is that politically and legally, I agreed that people should be able to do what they want. And that is essentially what I said. But I myself didn't personally support it. Now, that's one line of thinking, and that isn't a terrible way of thinking per se. I think if you are personally opposed to something and you kind of, keep that to yourself, as it were, you don't make a big deal about it, I don't think it's the worst. It's more of a kind of soft bigotry. It's not great, but it's not nearly as bad as constantly preaching how harmful and horrible gay people are. But I believed that while I didn't personally agree with these things, that people should have the right to be gay, to have an abortion, to do any of these things as they see fit, and that these should be issues that they deal with personally, morally, etc. For one, I believed that these were spiritual issues that people needed to deal with, and that they weren't necessarily things that the government should have any say in. I still believe that to an extent, and outside of religion, and I guess if you believe that the main purpose of sex, or even only purpose of sex, is procreation, I don't see any legitimate reason as to not support LGBTQ people, other than you think it's icky, which is understandable to an extent, because the natural inclination of human beings is that for things that we find different, we oppose. It's a survival instinct. But when you are properly exposed to different ideas, methodologies, ways of life, etc., they become less frightening, and you realize, hey, this really isn't so bad. But it's not about what you personally agree with or disagree with. There are many things that I personally disagree with that, at the end of the day, really don't matter. Many small controversies, if you will. But something like me preferring and only eating my steak well done, whereas a lot of people would say I'm horrible for doing that, is a lot different than saying people can't be gay or LGBTQ of any sort because they are monsters. I'm using a joke example here, obviously. You know, another one is, which way do you put the roll of the toilet paper? And I could argue that if you do under, you're just incorrect. But again, when it comes to these smaller issues, it really doesn't matter. And you can say to each their own. But when you have an issue of saying, not, I personally don't want to be, you know, I guess, around gay people. Look, if that's the way you want to live, then by all means, you can do what you can to try to not associate with them. But you, not to the extent that you can, you know, prevent them from living around you. If you want to move away, if you want to have control over your own being and all that, that's great. But, you know, nothing where you're hurting other people in any way. Anyway, those mindsets, though, are vastly different from, again, getting on a soapbox of some sort and constantly preaching gay bad, gay bad, gay bad. I realize that I keep repeating myself with how I'm responding to Ben here, but to be fair, he keeps repeating himself with what he's saying too, so take that as you will.
This sort of game is really ugly. It's really hideous. And again, it is only played by one side of the political aisle. I've been saying for my entire career, as far as I'm aware, that when you have an act of violence and the person who commits that act of violence is a whack job who is misinterpreting the words of a movement or a politician, that person is not reflective of the movement or politician. When a Black Lives Matter fellow traveler murders Dallas police officers in 2015, that is not the fault of Barack Obama. It's actually not even the fault of Black Lives Matter. When a Bernie Sanders supporter shoots up a congressional baseball game, that's not the fault of Bernie Sanders. And yet the entire left...
It depends what the through line is. If the through line is you constantly have... See, when you have things like Black Lives Matter and the protests that they have and all these different things, right? And the big surge that we saw of them in 2020, it's largely a movement of peaceful protest. Now, there were people that took advantage and, you know, did riots and different things like that in, say, like 2020, for example. But generally speaking, the broad ideology is one of peace, justice, and, well, reparations and things like that too, which I do support reparations, but that's a whole other thing. But if you have this through line where you take these political pundits like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, you take the things that, or people like Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you take the things that these people have said, and you realize they are preaching very hateful rhetoric that, again, you take people like this and you fuel their fire to commit the heinous crimes that they do. This is actually the thumbnail from a YouTube video, by the way, so If you want to watch it, by all means, I highly recommend it. Oh, it looks like this is censored anyway. But yeah, very good scene, very good moment. Great fucking show. Highly recommend it.
Left-wing media infrastructure and Democratic Party will immediately shift into, if you don't support every element of our radical social agenda, then you are responsible for murder. It's an ugly, stupid game that is directed specifically at silencing people who disagree with you.
You can not support something without adamantly going against it. I'm not a big fan of, personally, the idea of, say, neo-pronouns and things like that. I struggle with and am still trying to come to terms with and truly understand what makes somebody, if you will, non-binary. I don't like the idea that a lot of progressives kind of push, that essentially you have to, or how do I phrase this? You know, when people say like, oh, a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, a man is someone who identifies as a man. I agree with that, but I think that there's more to it as well. Like, you know, personally, I think that you would have to still adopt the characteristics that are typically defined, or however you want to phrase that, with being a man or a woman, at least how you present and things of that nature. I think that's a good way to put it. Or to put it another way, I view it where gender is aesthetic. You know, how do you present and all those different things. I understand that this is a limitation of my own viewpoint. I had a friend point out to me that I'm still viewing gender in a binary mindset, and that's true. I don't know if that's something I can overcome. I'm going to do my best, and I really do hope, especially if there's anyone in the comments or otherwise that would want to enlighten me on that more. I would love to hear it. But there's a difference between me saying I don't understand this and I'm willing to learn versus X group of people are just horrible and we need to do something about them. Because again, I will keep going back to this example. This is what that do something about them leads to.
And you're seeing the media do this immediately. So the idea here is that this is tied to a broader movement. And you again see this over and over again from the left. So Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez being irrepressibly foolish. She had a series of tweets on this. So Lauren Boebert, who represents this area, she tweeted out, "The news out of Colorado Springs is absolutely awful. This morning, the victims and their families are in my prayers. The lawless violence needs to end and end quickly." Which is a fine statement. There's nothing wrong with that statement. AOC immediately tweeted, "Lauren Boebert, you have played a major role in elevating anti-LGBT plus hate rhetoric and anti-trans lies while spending your time in Congress blocking even the most common sense gun safety laws. You don't get to thoughts and prayers your way out of this. Look inward and change."
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. 100%. She nailed it right there.
Unless you reflect the progressive ideology of AOC, you are responsible for murder.
No, it is not, unless you reflect if you shut up and don't say anything at all, you're fine. But when you go on tirades about how horrible these people are, you are part of the problem. That's what it comes down to, and you fucking know that, you little weasel.
So again, if you say that boys are boys and girls are girls, and if you say that we should not surgically mutilate 16-year-old girls who wrongly believe they are boys, this means that you are complicit in a person who had a history of threatening his...
Yes, I am getting very heated because, again, I have friends and family that are in this community. I can't stand bad faith. Because there are people who are going to listen to him and say, "You're right, we shouldn't make this a political issue. Wah, wah, wah." When you literally have... AOC just spelled it out perfectly there. And you have Ben giving the most uncharitable, opposite of good faith take possible as to what AOC just mentioned. You're either... I'm sorry. If you believe the things that Ben Shapiro says, if you believe the things that these political pundits like him say, and you really think that there's nothing wrong with what these people are saying, you're either in denial or you're a fucking moron. Like, I'm sorry. There is no one way or the other. There is either you don't actually understand what they're saying, or you're a fucking idiot. Whatever. Well, I guess if you don't understand what they're saying, you are yeah, you're either an idiot or you're evil. You know, you either actually know what they're saying and you're being dishonest, as I believe he is, or you don't actually know what they're saying and you're an idiot. One of the two.
His own mother with a bomb, shooting a bunch of gay people in a nightclub in Colorado Springs. This is the take from AOC. And then she broadened this out. She said, after Trump elevated anti-immigrant and anti-Latino rhetoric, we had the deadliest anti-Latino shooting in modern history. After anti-Asian hate with COVID, Atlanta, Tree of Life, Emmanuel AME, Buffalo. And now after an LGBT plus campaign, anti-LGBT plus campaign, Colorado Springs. Connect the dots, GOP.
Exactly, 100%. And I want to be clear on this as well. Something she didn't bring up, but it did happen, although not to nearly as large an extent as a lot of these things. When the war happened, when the war started between Russia and Ukraine, there was a lot of anti-Russian sentiment from people in America as well. And I'm talking about people like who were already here, who just happened to be Russian. There was a lot of anti-sentiment, or maybe they sounded Russian because they were maybe even Ukrainian themselves, or some other Slavic, where they sounded Russian, if you will. Yeah, there was a lot of hate from people like that. And I will say, it is not fair to blame whole swaths of people for something that their government or anything like that is doing. And just to be clear, that does apply to when people, especially in Europe, are hating on Americans as well. It applies just broadly across the board. I just don't like in general when people blame entire groups of people for a few and push harmful rhetoric in general. Not that there's any harmful rhetoric that's hurting a ton of Americans or anything like that, just to be clear, but we do see this as well, for example, with more misandric, you know what I'm talking about, hate against men, where this narrative is pushed. I've talked about this before, the whole kill all men are trash, and all that kind of stuff. And then you have, now, while physical crimes don't normally happen toward men, it's more so that, and they do, but it's more so that when the partner abuse does happen from a woman to a man, or when a man is assaulted in some way, they are not believed because this rhetoric is pushed so much. The rhetoric matters. And again, people like Ben Shapiro either know that and are being blatantly dishonest, or they're just fucking idiots. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the problem is that those dots don't connect. I mean,
yes, they do. Especially the COVID one. Oh my God, the fucking Asian hate crimes. Jesus.
First of all, the quote-unquote anti-Asian hate attack in Atlanta was directed against sex workers. Right?
There's also really harmful rhetoric pushed against sex workers, too. We'll talk about that in a little bit as we get to it as well.
I mean, that's what it was. And when she suggests that Emmanuel AME is the fault of Donald Trump, which is what she's suggesting there, Emmanuel AME happened, I checked the date, the day after Donald Trump announced for the presidency. He was not there's no relationship there. When it comes to the Buffalo shooter in his manifesto actively dissociates from Trump. If we're going to talk about anti-LGBT rhetoric and attacks, the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting was not connected with quote-unquote right-wing rhetoric. It was connected with a person who appeared to be a radical Muslim. The only dots that connect here are that law enforcement has.
Do you think those two things are separate? Right-wing doesn't just mean Christian nationalist. There are people who are conservatives who are right-wing, and they are Islamic or anything else like that. It's people that are very entrenched in their conservatism. That doesn't have to be Christianity or Judaism. Ben, you yourself were Jewish. What the fuck?
Has all of these people on their screen, and they miss every single one of them. That's the dot that apparently needs to be connected. But again, the idea here from AOC and company is always and forever that if something terrible happens, then we can connect it to our political opponents. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to.
Okay. Yeah. I don't really know what more I can add to that I haven't already said here. But I do want to point out a comment that I largely agree with as well. Hey Ben, if you want to make the case that Republicans aren't to blame for the rise in LGBTQ hate crimes, could you maybe not respond to a tragic mass shooting with a big rant about how horrible the LGBT community is, while offering no sympathy for the victims of this horrible tragedy? Very well put as well. But, as I said, we are talking about the response in general. Come on, where's my close all tabs function? All right, whatever, we'll do it the hard way. So, I said we'll talk about sex workers as well. Here we go. Porn star, dad of LGBT club massacre suspect spews homophobia in first interview. God, I love this fucking... shit, is he gay? We'll get to it. Article by Justin Rolich here of Daily Beast. Again, you're welcome to look up this article yourself and read it if you like. We're not going to be going through the whole article, but we are going to read a little bit here. Aaron Franklin Brink, who has appeared in such films as I Want to Get Titty Fucked and Latino Slut Academy, said he was just happy his son isn't gay. So, like I said, we're talking about the responses to this. They interviewed the father, and here's what the father had to say. This man is the father of the person who committed the horrible crime.
Was there any history of mental illness with him, or when's the last time you saw him?
My son.
Oh Jesus! It's a whole. I've only seen clips of this on Twitter before. All right, let's sure.
I hadn't seen him for years. I thought he committed suicide. His mother told me that he. I'll give you a history. I was a porn star. Okay, I became a porno star in 2002, and I combined that with a mixed martial arts career. And my ex was offended. She took off with my son. I hadn't seen him for years.
So I want to point out. I'm sure it's probably. Oh my God! I hate that it keeps doing this. Here, you know what? We're gonna make sure we're watching on YouTube. I want to point out, I'm sure that it's probably very obvious to people watching this, but
for years,
the way he's moving around and everything, it's pretty clear that he's very unhinged. You know what? I was going to say we're not going to go through the whole thing, but I feel like that would be possibly unfair. So, fuck it. I'm going to go through the whole thing.
Little did I get to see my son, I tried to give him, a father figure or whatever. I didn't know where his whereabouts were. I found.
I'm going to put. We're going to do subtitles too.
Out recently that he did not kill himself in 2016. That he's he's alive and well. And he lives in Colorado.
Yeah. Why did you think he had killed himself?
His mother told me this. She said that he killed himself because of I'm an embarrassment to him. My son is I loved him so much. I didn't want to lose being around. I wanted to be around my son and be here for him. I have a daughter.
So I want to point out something as well with this, by the way. We talk about the harmful rhetoric and things like that. It was also discussed that he, he's a porn star, or was a porn star. If this happened, how do I phrase this? Okay. If there was a situation where instead of the person who committed the crime, just came out as non-binary, the right would be on this, like, instantly, and they would be like, oh well, look at the guy. You'd have people like Ben Shapiro. Well, clearly he's unhinged, which yes he is, but clearly he's unhinged. He was a porn star, and I mean, this is what you can expect from sex work, from porn stars, from all these different things. So and they're not like that for him at all.
I might have had my son. I never see my kids. I never, but I want to be in his life. He's been accused of doing some crazy thing. I don't know what he's been accused of. I can't get answers from the attorneys really, but they're saying that somebody's, it's involving a gay bar or some shit. I don't know. I don't know what the heck he did at a gay bar. I don't know what's going on.
Well, he's accused of going on a mass shooting at a gay bar and killing 5 people.
Colorado Springs.
Okay, well, that's shit. If he's accused of doing that, I'm surprised he's not gay. I say that, but he's not gay.
When was the last time you saw him?
So I want to point this out here. His response is, "Oh shit, okay, he went and killed a bunch of people. Well, fuck. I'm just glad he's not gay." What the fuck? Seriously?
Shit. It was. I saw him. I made efforts to see him, but I think I see him in 2000.
Okay, so I want to point out something, by the way, about how two things can be true at the same time. You can look into these issues and have proper nuance, all that good stuff, right? Is it true that this man is completely fucking unhinged? Yes. Is it true that his upbringing had a impact on what made the kid turn out the way that he did? They did. Quite possibly. Is it inherently because the man was a MMA or that'd be MMA artist, actually. A stands for arts, not artist. Anyway, an MMA artist or a porn star? No, not necessarily. Could it have some correlation? Yes, absolutely. But is it important to fixate on any of those key things and say, well, he was bad, he was a bad father because this? Or, well, this kid was in this bad situation because look who he was raised by. Yes, you can say look who he was raised by, but it's not. I don't want this to be used as a point to attack. Well, it's probably not going to be used to attack MMA artists, but I don't want it to be used as a point to attack sex workers or porn stars in general, anything like that, as this kind of thing can be done. But again, if the right was being honest about this kind of thing, they would be attacking him for this. But because, let's be honest, they condone what their child did, they're not going to be.
I guess it was 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
It's been quite some time.
It was 2011, yeah.
Was he living in San Diego at the time?
He was in Carlsbad at the time. He came back from Colorado. They were here. I had a little bit of a relationship with him. He was 10 years old, I was holding mitts for him, showing him how to be. I wanted to be a professional fighter like me. I wanted to be a fighter. And, I don't know how much he takes after me, whatever, but, I said, my son, what the hell? I didn't expect to hear this kind of stuff.
He's a big kid.
Yeah, he's taller than me. He's like 6'7". He's a big guy, He's 6'7", like almost 300 pounds.
So you said you've been trying to reach him now?
No, he reached me. He reached out to me.
Okay, and said what?
My son is just say, hey, Dad, I want to talk to you, man. I want to see you. I was happy to hear he wanted to see me. He wanted me to come out to Colorado. And I was like, dude, I don't have the I can't just get out to Colorado like right now. And he wanted it right then and there. And it seemed like he was old. He was happy to see me, right? Or he wanted to see me. He needed something right then. It was urgent. So I was a little alarmed by that.
This was 2011?
Jesus, that face.
No, this last year.
Oh, okay.
I finally he's alive. I was happy to hear he's alive. And, yeah.
Yeah.
So he contacted you last year.
Just to be clear, by the way, his issue earlier wasn't that, oh, well, I'm glad he's alive. It was, oh, shit, I thought he was gay. So at least instead of being gay himself, he went and, murdered a bunch of people. That's great. he condones it too. That this very unhinged man condones what their child did as well.
And he wanted
Yeah,
to
well,
see
he
you.
reached out to some from people, even and he was they said he got his attention. He called some people that I knew, that he knew I knew, and I was to bridge the gap between my son and I. These people did. The Kennedys, Kennedy Insurance over there in El Cajon, like they're good. They're good connections with me. Very polite.
But never mind. I don't want to. I don't want to go this whole. I mean, this is like. This is insane. Let's be honest. This guy here. He's insane. He needs and to be clear, he needs mental help. He does need help, but he's insane.
Gentleman who's with his attorneys.
He talks about how I've seen the clip before.
I see.
And they reached out to me, and I was like, wow, my ex-wife actually told me. And she said, oh my God, they're trying to reach you. And I was like, I can't believe it. I was like, still kind of shocked. It's why people are dead. I just hope that there's another suspect. And this is not something like this my son actually did. I don't want him to be, he's gone. He's history. If he did this, they're probably, I mean, they have like special circumstances for stuff like this. And involving social circumstances, you never know what happens, right? So I want my son to live a healthy life and hopefully not, shit, man.
So his attorneys called you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And they said your son wants to talk with you. Why did they call you?
He didn't say he wants to talk to me. They said that it happened. Can you believe it happened? They started telling me what the incident.
By the way, I want to be clear on this. By the way, if any of you are skeptical of the comment that if the right had an issue with what was done, they would bring up the fact that this guy is an ex-porn star as a bad thing against him. That's what they did with George Floyd. And George Floyd was not even actually accomplished. According to this article, this video came from here, this man had been in multiple adult films. George Floyd was literally in like one amateur scene from the video that I saw. That whatever it was that got leaked after Candace Owens was all like, oh, he was no angel, blah, blah, blah. But I do want to be clear again, there's nothing wrong with sex work, nothing wrong with porn stars, anything like that. But that's how you know that they're being disingenuous about this. They would be on him about this.
About the incident. There was a shooting involving multiple people.
Right.
And then later on to find it's a gay bar.
Yeah, right. And
I was like, oh my God, is he gay? I was just scared. Oh my God, shit, is he gay? And he's not gay. So it's
well, you guys had conversations about that. You were.
oh yeah, it's like,
Again. So his thought is, oh, there's a shooting at the gay bar. Oh shit, is he gay? Oh no, he was the one that committed the shooting and killed a bunch of people. Oh, well, thank God he's not gay. I was really worried for a minute there. Where do your priorities as a human being lie? Like, oh, being gay is like awful, but hey, murder, A-okay.
You
I was
told
adamant
him.
about it.
Yeah, you were adamant that gay
I
is
was adamant
gay
this
is
ain't
bad.
happening. I'm a Mormon. I'm a conservative Republican, and we don't do gay. We don't do gay.
Yeah. So what?
You hear that? I was Mormon. I was Republican. I'm Republican. I was adamant. I beat it into his head that gay bad. Just like I was saying with Ben. So again, you have this thing where maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of that image. So again, you have this thing where you have people who are given this rhetoric constantly, in this case by their father and political pundits, and they become people like this who commit these horrible crimes. There's not really much else to say as far as that's concerned. Now, that image that just flashed on the screen for a minute there, that was an accident, but it is what I want to get to next, because I want to be perfectly clear about something. what the man did, or sorry, what the person did was awful, was evil, was horrible, absolutely. But there was an image that surfaced, and people were very vitriolic about it. It flashed on the screen accidentally a minute ago, and I couldn't warn you before then, but I do want to say, if you have weak stomachs, if you're eating anything while watching this, if you just don't want to see a rather gruesome image, maybe don't check this out. But if you're okay with that, here we go. This image has circulated on Twitter. The person was trampled and beaten very severely, and many people are saying it's not enough, very severely by people who were in the club. And look, that part, defending him, beating him, subduing him, all of that, that is good. That is important. Self-defense is a good thing. I want to be clear about that. But people are responding to this in a manner that is not good. People are responding to it saying it's not enough, he got what he deserved, all these different things. And when people commit horrible things, just like I talked about with even pedophiles before, it's very easy to jump to the extreme and say, these people just need to die. But it doesn't do any favors for progressives optically, nor does it do anything positive for the world in general. If you want to point out this person was a horrible monster and they should be facing trial for what they did and all these different things, fine. If you want to point out that they're a horrible monster and yeah, they got what they deserved as far as, you know, they were beaten and subdued and all that good stuff, fine. But the people that are just being so vitriolic as to think that, oh, he needs to die, he needs all these different things, I'm sorry, I don't agree with. I really don't. Now, we do actually have a nice mural to the people who were murdered as well. Now, keep in mind, these 5 people were murdered. There were 25 other people that were injured. They matter too. This is apparently what the person looks like now in custody. Like I said, they were beaten really fucking gruesomely, and it's awful. It's awful. But I want to be clear about something with all of this. While it is true that the horrible crime committed by this person is horrible and was spurred on by Republican rhetoric that is anti-gay entirely. While it is true that he had from the looks of it, awful upbringing, with a very bigoted man as a father, and while it is true that there need to be, tighter gun restrictions and things like that, there's no reason a person with a rap sheet like his should have even been able to access a gun in the first place. While all of these things are true, it is also true that when things like this happen, while it is cathartic, revenge is not the answer. And it is important to try to keep a level head about this. If you're angry, you're fearful, I completely understand that. I am too. Like I said, I have friends and family that are part of the LGBTQ community themselves. I fear for their lives as well. I get it. And the people that are being absolutely dishonest, like Ben Shapiro, are 100% part of the problem. But at the same time, those of us that are feeling this immense hurt, bitterness, anxiety, should not allow ourselves to stoop to such a low level that we dehumanize the person that committed these crimes. This person that committed this crime is a product of, well, largely we're all products of our environment, but they're a product of so many different things. And yes, they should face trial for what they did. Yes, they should do time for what they did. But people who are acting like a lynch mob to the person online or otherwise, that's not the answer either. It's important to keep our heads, to go in love and humility, to understand and respect those that don't agree with us. And I'm not talking about tolerance of intolerance. That's not what I'm talking about. The hateful rhetoric that the right spews about these people is awful. Absolutely awful. But the people online that are saying like, oh, we're not going to respect their pronouns because they're faking it or they're anything, doesn't matter. We have to be consistent. We have to be honest. Respecting pronouns, it's like Ezra Miller. People were disrespecting their pronouns because they turned out to be a piece of shit. Pronouns are not something you respect because somebody is a good or bad person. It's not something somebody earns. It's what they identify as. And it doesn't make you, I don't know, a better person or anything for disrespecting their pronouns just because they're a horrible person. There are horrible people with pronouns all the time. I mean, literally everybody has pronouns, so take that as you will. But in any case, these tragic events are absolutely, at the end of the day, caused, or at least spurred on, by the harmful rhetoric that the right pushes. And there are laws that should be put in place to prevent people who commit crimes like this from committing them in the first place. All of these things are true. And it is also true that the progressives need to not be out for blood, let's say. While revenge makes sense, it isn't the answer, and it certainly doesn't make us look good. It's a bad look for us, and it's something that, again, the right can use to fuel the fire. And they can say, oh, they're not going to respect this person's pronouns. They want them dead. What about rehabilitation? What about, all this stuff they don't really care about? There is a very human element. There's a very emotional element to all these things. And again, this is a very hard subject. I'm aware of that. And I hope that I am tackling it with the gravity that it is owed. To those that have lost people in this or similar events, truly my heart goes out to you. For those that are in fear of your life for different reasons, I wish you all the best. And for everybody else that are trying to be good allies in these situations, just be respectful of others, be kind. Love one another. Take care of each other. As always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Links in the description for that. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something you do like. Please be kind to each other in the comments. Like I said, I know this is a very difficult issue. I wish you all the best. Later, guys. Peace and love.